right. Let me wait a second. Take that down. I am back. This is going to be an update, but a little bit of a change. As with all science, there are changes that happen and things that you have to maybe not have accounted for that you've got to check on. Let me here so I can watch all you people talk. So I'll walk through the minor issue, but you can see that I'm still missing the one camera. Again, I can't fix that until I get back in the room. But the issue that needs to be addressed is you'll notice that the laser has not come back to the 0 point from where we started at. And we can get a close up on that. And you can see that it has not gone all the way back to where it should have been. We're about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters to the left. Could be multiple different reasons. Could be temperature variations, and I'll show you something in a minute. It could be changes in the wire where I'm actually attached at the top and the bottom. Hey, sweetie, I love you. Thanks for coming again. If where I've got it tied off at the top and the bottom, kind of think of like a chain for a bicycle or a swing. If it's kinked just a little bit, then as it spun, something might have just offset. So it wasn't in that perfect equilibrium and happy place. So these numbers are not necessarily going to be accurate, what we're looking at here. This is where we started. So you can see it was right on that line, but today we're about 1 millimeter left. And then where we ended this run, we were right there, which is the green line that you can see. The issue, like I said, is that we didn't come back to that norm. What I'm gonna do from here is the next couple of runs I'm gonna record, but I'm not necessarily gonna broadcast because it's just gonna be running the experiment over and over and over again because I need it to get to start at the same point and stop at the same point, because then I know it's actually just the deflection of the extra weights that's causing that pull and not some other weird idiosyncrasy of that wire itself. So not a big issue, but something that has to be addressed. But like I said, this is science. You know, something gets thrown at you, you kind of duck and dodge and work around it and figure out what's causing the issue. So first, what I'm going to do is I will take those down and we are going to mark this spot so that we can see where this series started. As I take a look at, make sure. Sorry if I'm not paying attention to the chat. And everyone, thank you so much for the warm welcome to my family and my wife. I love it that she's in here, and I know that she kind of gets tickled when everybody sees her and recognizes her, so it's awesome. Thank you. If we come back out here, though, one thing that might be the problem is if you look at the temperature today. Right now, we are at about 32 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot in that room. This is the temp when we started the experiment a week ago. It was 30 degrees. So there is a 2-degree difference in that room, and that might be the cause. I couldn't specifically tell. But what I'm going to do over the next week is basically what we've done together for the past week, every 4 days, is come back and run the experiment again. I will record each of these. I'm not going to broadcast them, but I will record each one of them so that I can put together a compilation of all the data throughout the experiment to see if I can find trends of what the temp was when the laser was off, what the temp was when it was on. And then once we figure that out, we can hopefully actually do the math and get that absolute deflection, how much the weights are causing. So that means today, I'm going to start the experiment again. And we're going to bring the weights back in, and we can see gravity doing its thing. Don't tell me there's somebody in there timing people out. Down. don't see any issues. No knuckleheads in the chat today. Not that I'm seeing. Well, there is barometric pressure in there. It's on the screen here. I don't on the scrolling screen. I haven't been tracking that. It could be that, but I don't know what it would be causing pressure of to change anything because that box isn't completely sealed. Oh, and today's shirt, since last week's was the Area 52, this is a special shirt that came in the mail today from my BFF Robin, who's also out there in the chats. I'm sorry for what I said after the soju. Thanks, Robin. I love it. And what's hilarious is that only the Koreans in my office laugh when I show them the shirt. The Americans just kind of look dumbfounded. Okay, so what we're going to do then is let's bring back in the weights. Not that. Arduino, let's bring that up. And I'll keep an eye on the chat for a second as I get ready to do this. Hey, Jim Bojo. Great show today, you guys. That was awesome. So before I move anything, I always consult this, my little handy notebook, because I want to make sure I don't go the wrong direction. So we need to go clockwise. Yes, clockwise is minus 5600. We'll hold it there for a second. Yay, Marvel, you made it just in time. And Davros. So we're about to bring the weights back in. You can go back and watch, but basically we didn't settle back to the norm, so I've got to run the experiment a couple more times to figure out and see where my norm actually is. So are we ready to go? Should we make the bring on the weights? Here we go. I know it's slow, but it's got to be slow. Once I get back in there, I'm probably going to do a little more experimentation on if I can make it move even slower so that we don't, there's little to no possibility of the air current being created in there. But if it does like it did last time, we should see a little bit of a push, which we are seeing right now. Go to the close-up view. Yep, we're pushing away from the norm. I get excited every time I do this as well, Carl. It's fascinating to see science at work. Jimmy B, what's your question? Yes, Jim Bojo, you've got to do an interview of Kristen. Absolutely. Yeah. Walderman, I'm definitely going to try and make it slower. That might be the cause for this initial push. I honestly don't know. Again, we mentioned it before that maybe it could be, in theory, the gravitational bow shock as it pushes away. And there's the gravity. I love that. Every time, that's amazing. That is just amazing to see that right there. Thank you for putting normal in quotes, Carl. I am very normal. In quotes. I do normal things. We go back out to the main experiment. See, the weights are in place. Now remember, the black line on here is not where we started. today. Harry, does this shirt make you look fat? No, this shirt with enough soju makes you look pretty. Very pretty. Australian pretty. What's the shirt? Second. Marvel, just for you, the shirt this time is I'm sorry for what I said after the soju. Ironically, I've been sober for a week and a half now, and I get a shirt about soju today. Not that I was an alcoholic. It's just I haven't been drinking because I'm on a diet. Don't get the wrong idea. Go back in close, and you can see the deflection. So, one more time for anybody who just joined, the black line that you're seeing on the right, far right, is where we started the experiment from. The green line is where the norm was after the weights were introduced the first time. The black line on the bottom is where the laser went back to after we removed the weights. It should have returned to that other black line. If everything was calibrated right and everything went back to homeostasis, went back to its happy place. Something changed in the wire, something, temperature, pressure, something caused it to shift just a little bit to the left. So we're running the experiment again. Don't know if it's going to go back to that green line or if it's going to shift to the right even farther. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun this experiment over and over and over and see where all of these lines are to try and figure out what the issue is. And maybe it's just a shift back and forth for every experiment, which I wouldn't be able to explain. Peter Harrington, thanks. And don't thank me. This is something I've wanted to do for 20 years. I've just gotten lucky enough or unlucky enough that I'm spending a year away from my family and I have a spare bedroom to try and do it in. And the insanity to want to try and prove flat earthers wrong. Yeah, Kristen, I'm on keto. Tonight I had a giant bowl of meat, pepperoni, sausage, bacon, bunch of cheese baked in the oven. It was amazing. Could that be torsion, tensioning in the wire? It should settle out after 2 or 3 runs. It could, but it has swung back and forth a lot over the past 6 months. Every time I enter the room, it starts to sway. I've gone in there and bumped it, and it started to sway. So I'm honestly not sure what it is. So this bar, this wire has had a lot of oscillation time over the last 6 months because it pretty much doesn't stop. Your guitar string will unwind with age. Could it be metal fatigue? It could. I honestly don't know. And it wasn't a spun guitar string. It wasn't wound. It was a wasn't high E. It was the second to highest string. The highest string was too thin. You have all the details and variables detailed and available online. I do. I've got a website. I'll put it out in my community tab here in a couple days. I put it out in a video a couple days ago, or last month. The last update, if you go to my last update that's got the big blue with a rock in the middle showing the curvature of space-time, that video should have a link to a website I created with all the data. I have not created the data, or I have not updated the data since the last time I made that video. So over the next couple days, I will definitely go in there and update the data in there. It should have all of the sizes for the experiment, the dimensions of everything. I'm not positive. It's in writing right here, but I'm old and like pen and paper, pencil and paper. But yes, it will be online for anybody to kind of scrutinize. Yeah, time flies. I think it's a single strand string are twined during production. So yeah, it could. Yeah. And we'll see after I do a couple more runs back and forth. We'll see if this continues, if it's a wire issue. And each time I do it, I'm going to check the temp. It might be a temp issue. This might be what happens when we have a constant 2-degree increase in heat in the room. Thank you, Kristen. Special one for my wife. Dinkle D. Dory? How old are you? I'm 41. I shouldn't say that because I know there's old farts in the room like Terry and Alan. I love you guys. Sorry. All right, so go back to here. You can see that there's no vibrations in the room as well, but we're at 32 degrees. And I'll leave it here a little bit so we can get the barometric pressure off the reading. Okay, Marvel. Come here, Snow. Come here, puppy. Come here. Come and get. Oh, and there's the puppy shot. Hi to the people. Getting so big. She's a sweetheart. Can't wait for her to bring her home to meet her pup or her sisters. We have 2 Siberian Huskies at home. Jimbo Jr. The Furball was awesome, by the way. Yeah, that was awesome, Jimbo Joe. Thanks for letting me do that interview. Little update. I interviewed JM Truth a couple days ago. He is a fellow military veteran, combat veteran. I know that he's had a lot of issues over the past couple months, people questioning his credentials. Talked to him for about 2.5 hours, about as long as I did with Mark Sargent. Obviously, he's not as big of a fame as Mark Sargent at all, but hopefully it clears up a lot of things. I don't agree with virtually anything on his theology, politics, or science, but we were able to connect at a human level and as fellow soldiers. So, and that's kind of what my goal for the community is entertaining as the snark and the pointing fingers and calling people idiots is. I think we get a lot more done if we can talk, if we can actually talk. So that interview should be coming out Friday night stateside, and then Monday I will probably be moderating a debate between JM Truth and Fight the Flat Earth. So that'll probably be pretty early in the morning. Thanks, Rozovsky. Thanks, Jimbo Joe. It was a great interview. The interview with you, and that's my approach to people on the other side as well. Talk, not yell, not argue, just talk. So before we go too much longer, we can go back to the laser. If there are any more questions, any more comments, eventually, maybe I'll figure out how to like bring guests on here and have people talk with me. I have a Mac, so that's really hard because no software for anything works on a Mac. It's great, but I love my Mac. So maybe next time I'll get a bunch of people in here and we'll run the experiment together so we can all kind of cheer on. Unless there's any other questions, I'll give it just a little bit longer. Hey, puppy. And then say goodnight, because it is about 11 p.m. for me, and time to go to bed and get ready for work tomorrow. Want to come up here? All right. wash out of the puppy. How many runs before it's done? Steaming Cup reason? As many as it takes. The only reason I'm going to stop before I think I have hard data will be if I leave Korea. I'm not going to stop the experiment until I have actual viable data. This run I don't consider as viable data. Yeah, I'll definitely talk to Thomas. The up and down, Jen, is probably from minor vibrations on the bar that it's hanging from. That doesn't cause oscillation. That causes shake in the wire where you get a little bit of an up and down, and I haven't been able to figure out a way to dampen that. It's a never-ending cycle of measurements. Pretty much. Yes, absolutely. All right, and with that, thank you all for joining me again. Maybe the next time we do this in a week or so, I'll bring some more people on and figure out how to have a conversation while this is all ongoing. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you for coming along on this adventure. Thank you to my family for joining me again today. I love you. And I've got a message from Terry. So you guys all have a good night. I should have another video out in a couple days of an awesome observation that I did in Hawaii that I think proves the curve. So y'all have a good day, good night, good evening. And $10 for soju. Thank you, Robin. All right, be kind to each other.